The fluorescent lights of the pediatric ICU at Chicago Memorial were the kind of bright that made your eyes ache after 48 hours. I knew because I had been counting. 2 full days of sitting in a vinyl chair that squeaked every time I shifted, watching the monitors blink above my daughter's bed, listening to the soft mechanical rhythm of the oxygen assist. Lily was 4 years old. She had gone from chasing butterflies in our backyard on a Sunday afternoon to struggling to breathe by Sunday night. Pneumonia, the doctor said, aggressive and fast. Her little body was fighting hard, but she needed help. My husband, Grant, had been in and out, mostly out. He said he couldn't stand the smell of hospitals, the beeping, the waiting. I told myself I understood. People cope differently. That's what I told myself when he left the first night to sleep at home, because the chair was killing his back. That's what I told myself when he showed up the next morning with coffee for himself and nothing for me, staying barely an hour before mumbling about a work call he couldn't miss. But now it was Wednesday, day 3. Lily's fever had finally broken at dawn, and the doctor told me the antibiotics were working. She was going to be okay. The relief hit me so hard I had to grip the bedrail to keep from collapsing. I called Grant immediately, my hands shaking, tears streaming. "She's going to be fine," I said. "The fever broke. Doctor says maybe 2 more days, and we can take her home." "That's great, babe. That's really great." His voice was strange, not relieved, not emotional, distracted. I could hear wind in the background, and something else. Music, laughter. "Grant, where are you?" A pause. Then that laugh he does when he's been caught off guard, the too quick, too casual one. So, funny thing. Remember how I told you Dave's been planning that fishing trip to Lake Geneva? The guys really needed me to come. It's just for the weekend. You said Lily was getting better, so I figured the timing worked out. I sat there in the ICU, my daughter's small hand wrapped around my pinky, and listened to my husband explain that he had driven 3 hours north to a lake house to go fishing with his college buddies while our child was hospitalized. "You left," I said. My voice was flat, hollow, like the word itself had no meaning anymore. "Come on, don't make it a thing." He said it with the tone a person uses when they think the other person is overreacting. "You said she's fine. You're there. What am I supposed to do? Just sit in that room staring at the wall?" I needed a break, okay? I've been stressed out of my mind. Stressed. He was stressed. I had slept maybe 9 hours total in 3 days. I had hand-fed my daughter ice chips and held a basin while she threw up medication she couldn't keep down. I had memorized the rhythm of every machine in that room because if one of them changed, I needed to know. And he was stressed. I heard a woman's voice in the background, faint but unmistakable. Somebody laughing and saying something I couldn't quite catch. Then Grant's muffled reply. "Away from the phone, hold on, 1 sec. "Who's that?" "Dave's girlfriend. She brought a friend. It's a group thing, nothing weird. Look, I'll be back Sunday night, Monday morning at the latest. Kiss Lily for me." He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked up at me with those big hazel eyes, glassy from fever, and whispered, "Mama, is Daddy coming?" "Soon, baby," I said it automatically. The lie tasted like copper. I didn't cry. Something beyond tears was happening inside me. Something cold and structural. Like a building settling before it collapses. I put my phone face down on the table and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I picked it up and called my brother. Nathan answered on the second ring. He always did, even at 11 at night, even from 3 time zones away in Seattle, where he ran a forensic accounting firm that specialized in fraud investigations for mid-sized companies. Nathan was the person who found the things people spent years trying to hide. "Hey, Em, how's my niece doing? Is she?" "She's better." The fever broke. I paused, choosing my words the way you choose where to step on broken glass. "Nathan, Grant went on a fishing trip." The silence on the other end had a texture to it. Dense. Calculating. My brother didn't react emotionally, he processed. Say that again. Lily is in the ICU. Grant left for Lake Geneva, with Dave and some other people. There's a woman there. He says it's Dave's girlfriend and her friend. He says he needed a break. Nathan's breathing was steady. When did he leave? This morning, I think. Maybe last night. I don't know. I've been in this room for 3 days. I don't know what day it is half the time. Okay. His voice shifted into the register I recognized from his work calls. The one that meant he was already building a spreadsheet in his head. Emma, I need you to listen to me. Don't call him again. Don't text him. If he texts you, respond normally, short and calm. Nothing that makes him think anything has changed. Can you do that? Why? Because something's been bothering me for a while, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want to upset you. But a man who leaves his sick daughter to go fishing isn't just selfish. That's someone who's already checked out. And people who check out of a marriage usually check in somewhere else first. I want to look into a few things. Will you let me? The question hung in the air. Behind me, Lily's oxygen monitor beeped its steady rhythm. Look into everything, I said. I want you to understand what that means. I understand. Okay, I'll call you in the morning. Get some sleep. And Em, she's going to be fine. Kids are tougher than we think. He hung up. I pulled the thin hospital blanket around my shoulders and curled up in the vinyl chair next to Lily's bed. For the first time in 3 days, I slept. Not because I felt safe. Because I had handed the fear to someone who would turn it into information. And information was something I could use. Nathan called at 7 the next morning. I was already awake, feeding Lily apple juice through a straw while she watched cartoons on my phone. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. How much access does Grant have to your finances? I walked to the corner of the room, lowering my voice. We have a joint checking, a joint savings. He has a credit card under my account. My name's on everything because my credit was better when we got married. He handles the bills. I handle Lily. Your inheritance from Mom, the $400,000. Where is that? In a separate savings account. He doesn't have access. At least, he shouldn't. Give me the account number. And your online banking login. I gave him everything. He was quiet for a minute, and I could hear him typing. When was the last time you checked the balance on that account? I don't know. 6 months? It's supposed to just sit there. More typing. Then silence. Nathan, I'm going to send you a screenshot. Don't react in front of Lily. Look at it when you're alone. I waited until the nurse came to check Lily's vitals, then stepped into the hallway. I opened the screenshot. My inheritance account. The balance should have been around $412,000 with interest. It showed $11,342. The hallway tilted. I grabbed the wall. He moved the money in small amounts over 18 months, Nathan said. He was still on the line. 10,000 here, 15,000 there. Always just under the reporting threshold. It went to an account I'm still tracing, but the routing number belongs to a credit union in Lake County, Illinois. Lake County, as in Lake Geneva. I couldn't breathe. I slid down the wall and sat on the cold linoleum floor, my back against the painted cinder block. There's more, Nathan said. His voice was careful now, the way you speak to someone you're afraid might shatter. His credit card, the one under your account. I pulled 6 months of statements. There are charges at restaurants you've never been to, a jewelry store in Oak Brook, 2 hotel stays in Milwaukee, and a recurring monthly charge to a luxury apartment rental service. He's renting an apartment? A studio in Wicker Park. The lease started 14 months ago. 14 months. Lily turned 3 14 months ago. I threw her a butterfly-themed birthday party in our backyard. Grant manned the grill. He kissed me in front of everyone and said he was the luckiest man alive. And somewhere in Wicker Park, a studio apartment was waiting for him to come back to. Who is she, Nathan? I don't have a name yet, but I have the apartment address. And I have a friend at the Lake County Credit Union who owes me a favor. Give me 24 hours. I went back into Lily's room. She was asleep again, the color returning to her cheeks. I sat in the vinyl chair and let the rage fill me slowly, like water rising in a basement. Not a flood, a deliberate, rising tide. Grant texted that afternoon. A photo of himself holding a fish, grinning under aviator sunglasses. Caption: "Caught a big one. How's our girl doing?" I typed back: "She's doing great. Enjoy the trip." 3 words of normalcy. Each one a lie. Each one a brick in the wall I was building between the woman I was yesterday and the woman I was becoming. Nathan called back at exactly 24 hours, almost to the minute. Her name is Kendra Moss. She's 26. She works at a boutique marketing firm in the Loop. She's been posting on social media from Lake Geneva since yesterday. The same lake house, the same dock, the same sunset. There's no Dave in any of the photos. There's no girlfriend or friend. It's her, Grant, and another couple I haven't identified yet. He lied about Dave. There is no Dave. I mean, Dave exists, but Dave is in Tampa this week. I checked. Grant used him as a cover. I closed my eyes. The fish photo. The grin. The sunglasses reflecting a sky I couldn't see. "What do you want to do?" Nathan asked. "What's the total damage?" From the inheritance account, roughly $390,000 is missing. The credit card has about $42,000 in charges that are directly attributable to the affair. The apartment costs $3,000 a month. That's another $42,000 over 14 months. We're looking at somewhere around $475,000. The number was so large it felt abstract. $500,000. My mother had died for that money. Ovarian cancer. 2 years of treatment, and at the end, a life insurance policy and a small investment portfolio she'd built working as a school librarian for 30 years. She told me on her last coherent day, "This is for Lily's future. Promise me." I promised. And Grant had spent it on a studio apartment and dinners I never ate, and jewelry I never wore. "I want it back," I said. "All of it. And I want him to know what it feels like to have nothing." Nathan was quiet for a beat. "Then, I was hoping you'd say that. Here's what we're going to do." Lily was discharged on Friday morning. I carried her out of the hospital myself, her arms wrapped around my neck, her face buried in my shoulder. My neighbor Rosa picked us up. She didn't ask where Grant was. She'd seen enough. At home, I put Lily in her bed and surrounded her with stuffed animals. I made her soup. I read her 3 stories. And when she fell asleep, I went to the kitchen table where Nathan had sent me a package overnight delivery. Inside was a folder, printed bank statements, screenshots, Kendra Moss's social media profile, the apartment lease with Grant's signature, credit card receipts from a jeweler showing a purchase of a tennis bracelet, $1,400, 2 days before my birthday. I didn't get a bracelet for my birthday. I got a card he clearly bought at a gas station. I spread it all out on the table. Then, I made my calls. First, my attorney. Nathan had recommended her. Her name was Patricia Yoon, and she practiced family law like other people practice surgery. Cold, precise, and with zero tolerance for wasted time. I explained the situation in under 5 minutes. She asked 3 questions. Is the inheritance account solely in your name? Did he forge your signature or access it through shared login credentials? Do you have documentation of the affair? Yes. Shared credentials, I think. And yes, I have everything. Good. We're filing Monday morning. Dissipation of marital assets. Conversion of separate property. Fraud. Illinois is an equitable distribution state. And a judge is going to take one look at those transfers and light him on fire. Don't warn him. Don't confront him. Let him walk back into this house on Sunday night thinking everything is normal. The second call was to my credit card company. I reported the supplementary card as compromised and had it deactivated immediately. The representative asked if I wanted to issue a replacement. No, I said, just shut it down. The third call was to the bank. I changed every password, every security question, every login. I set up alerts for any withdrawal over $50. I moved what was left of the inheritance to a new account at a different institution. Then I waited. Grant came home Sunday night at 9:15. He walked in smelling like campfire smoke and beer, a cooler in one hand, his bag in the other. He gave me a hug that lasted exactly 1 second and went straight to Lily's room. I heard him whisper, "Daddy's home, princess." She murmured something sleepy. He came back out. "She looks so much better. See? I told you she'd be fine. You worry too much." I made a non-committal sound and went to bed. He fell asleep in minutes. I lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe, thinking about the folder hidden in the trunk of my car. Monday morning. I dropped Lily at Rose's. Told Grant I had a dentist appointment. Instead, I drove to Patricia Yoon's office and signed everything. The petition for dissolution of marriage. The emergency motion for exclusive possession of the marital home. The motion to freeze all joint accounts. The demand for a full forensic accounting. Patricia filed electronically at 9:07 a.m. By 9:40, a process server was at our house. Grant was home. He had nowhere else to be since I'd noticed he hadn't mentioned work in days. He called me 11 minutes after the papers were served. His voice was different. High and tight and scrambling. "Emma, what the hell is this? I'm holding divorce papers. Divorce papers! What is happening?" I pulled into a parking lot and turned off the engine. "You went fishing while Lily was in the ICU. That's what this is about?" I said I was sorry about that. I needed space. "You can't divorce someone over a fishing trip." "You're right," I said. "But I can divorce you over the $400,000 you stole from my mother's inheritance, and over Kendra Moss, and over the apartment in Wicker Park that you've been renting for 14 months. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. "How?" he started, then stopped. Then started again, his voice dropping to something between a whisper and a growl. "Your brother. That nosy little forensic accountant who found every transaction, every receipt, every hotel charge, and every photo of you and Kendra at the lake house you told me was Dave's." "There is no Dave, Grant. There's no work emergency. There's just you and your girlfriend and my mother's money paying for all of it." He tried everything in the next 45 seconds. He tried anger. "You went through my private finances." He tried guilt. "You're going to destroy this family over money." He tried bargaining. "Let's talk about this. I'll pay it back. I'll end it with her. Whatever you want." He tried threatening. "You'll never see a dime in court. I'll fight you for custody." And finally, the one that made my blood run cold. "Lily needs her father. You take me away from her and she'll never forgive you." Lily needed her father in that hospital room, I said. And he was holding a fish. I hung up. My hands were steady. My breathing was even. Something had crystallized inside me during those 3 days in the ICU. When you sit next to your child's bed and watch machines breathe for her, you learn what matters. And you learn what doesn't. Grant didn't matter anymore. He was a line item on a balance sheet, and the numbers didn't add up. The next 2 weeks were a controlled demolition. Patricia Yoon was a surgeon, and Nathan was the MRI. Together, they mapped the full scope of what Grant had done. The inheritance theft was the centerpiece, but it wasn't everything. Nathan found a second credit card, one Grant had opened in my name without my knowledge, carrying $18,000 in debt. He found cash advances from our joint account totaling another $60,000, routed through Venmo to accounts belonging to Kendra Moss and 2 other names I didn't recognize. He found that Blackwood Strategies, Grant's supposed freelance consulting business, had filed exactly 0 tax returns in 2 years, while claiming to me that it was breaking even. The forensic picture was devastating. Grant hadn't just been unfaithful. He had been systematically draining every financial resource our family had while constructing an entirely separate life. The apartment, the girlfriend, the trips. All funded by my dead mother's money and my own earnings as a pediatric nurse, working 12-hour night shifts. Patricia brought the evidence to the judge in a motion for emergency relief. Judge Reyes, a no-nonsense woman with reading glasses she used as a weapon of intimidation, reviewed the filings in her chambers. She issued the order in under an hour. Grant was to vacate the marital home within 72 hours. All joint accounts were frozen. I was granted temporary sole custody. A guardian ad litem was appointed to assess Lily's living situation. Grant's attorney, a man named Phil Drucker, who had clearly taken the case expecting a routine suburban divorce, stood in the courtroom looking like he'd swallowed something alive. Your Honor, my client disputes the characterization of these transfers as theft. The inheritance account credentials were shared willingly. This is a marital financial dispute, not criminal conduct. Judge Reyes looked at him over her glasses. Counselor, your client opened a credit card in his wife's name without her knowledge. That is textbook identity fraud. He transferred $400,000 from an account containing inherited separate property into an untraceable personal account. That is conversion. And he did all of this while his wife was working night shifts and caring for a sick child. She removed her glasses. I'm not inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt. Motion granted. Grant moved out on a Thursday. I watched from the upstairs window as he loaded boxes into his car. He looked up once, and our eyes met. He mouthed something I couldn't read. Maybe sorry, maybe something else. I closed the curtain. He tried to fight. Of course he did. Phil Drucker filed motions. Character witnesses. A counter-narrative. He tried to paint me as controlling, obsessive, the kind of wife who monitored her husband's every move. He tried to argue that the inheritance was commingled and therefore marital property. He tried to claim that my brother's investigation was an invasion of privacy. Patricia dismantled each argument like she was disassembling furniture. The inheritance was never deposited into a joint account. Grant accessed it through saved credentials on a shared computer. Not commingling. Unauthorized access. The credit card in my name wasn't a marital decision. It was forgery. And Nathan's investigation used only publicly available records and legally obtained financial documents. No laws broken. Just math. The identity theft charge was referred to the state's attorney. Grant was formally charged 6 weeks after the divorce filing. The mugshot appeared in the Lake County News. The man holding the fish in aviator sunglasses now stood against a height chart under fluorescent lights, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. Kendra Moss vanished. Her social media went private overnight. The apartment lease was terminated. She was, as Nathan put it, a pilot fish who only swam with sharks. Once the shark was dead, she was gone. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. The terms were surgical. I retained full custody. Grant received supervised visitation every other Saturday at a family services center, 45 minutes, monitored. He was ordered to repay the full amount of the stolen inheritance, plus interest. A judgment that would follow him for the rest of his financial life. The fraudulent credit card debt was assigned entirely to him. He walked out of the courthouse with nothing. No home, no savings, no daughter waiting for him at the door. I won't pretend it felt like victory. It didn't. Victory implies a contest between equals. This was something else. This was the world correcting itself after a long, slow tilt. Lily asked about her father often in those first weeks. Where's Daddy? Why doesn't Daddy live here? Is Daddy coming to my dance show? Each question was a small needle finding a new spot. I answered honestly but gently. Daddy made some mistakes, and he needs to figure things out on his own for a while. But he loves you, and you'll see him soon. I don't know if the first part was true, but I knew the second part had to be. For her sake. 6 months later, I was offered a position as nurse manager at the pediatric unit where Lily had been treated. A promotion I had wanted for years but never pursued because Grant always said the schedule would be too demanding, that it wouldn't leave enough time for him. For him, not for Lily, not for our family. For him, I took the job. Nathan came to visit that Thanksgiving. He flew in from Seattle with his wife, and we cooked a turkey that was too big for 3 adults and 1 small child. Lily sat on his shoulders and declared him the tallest person in the world. After she went to bed, we sat at the kitchen table with coffee, the same table where I had spread out the folder that changed my life. Do you regret calling me that night? He asked. I thought about it, The vinyl chair, the beeping monitors, the sound of Grant's voice explaining why a fishing trip mattered more than his daughter. "I regret not calling sooner," I said. He nodded. Then he smiled. A rare thing from Nathan, who dealt in numbers, not emotions. "Mom would be proud of you, Em. Not because of what you did to him, because of what you did for Lily." I looked at the kitchen wall where I'd hung a photo of my mother holding Lily as a newborn. Two women I would protect with everything I had, one's memory, the other's future. The money was being recovered, slowly, through garnished wages and seized assets. It would go back where it belonged, into an account for Lily's education, for her future, for the promise I made to a dying woman in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and ending. "This is for Lily's future. Promise me." I promised, and I kept it. The kitchen was quiet. The turkey leftovers were in the fridge. My daughter was asleep upstairs, breathing easily. No machines, no monitors, just the soft, steady rhythm of a healthy child at peace. I had lost a husband. I had lost $500,000. I had lost 2 years of sleep and a version of myself that trusted too easily. But sitting there, in my kitchen, in my house, in the life I had rebuilt from the wreckage, I understood something with a clarity that felt permanent. I hadn't lost anything that mattered. The things that mattered were right here, upstairs, on the wall, in the chair across from me, and inside the woman who had walked out of that hospital, alone, carrying everything, and hadn't stopped walking since. The story of the woman who stayed quiet was over, and I had nothing left to prove to anyone except the 4-year-old sleeping upstairs who would one day ask me what happened, and I would tell her the truth. I fought for you. Every single day, I fought for you, and I would do it all again.